think I'm actually live. Oh, that's fun. All right. Hey, everybody. So happy that this worked out. It is Saturday morning. And I was like, geez, what am I going to do on a Saturday? And then it occurred to me, why not help you guys make more money? So this week has been beyond fascinating for me because I have been, oh goodness, where was I? I was in Cincinnati all week. And the entrepreneurs who showed up, the entrepreneurs and executives who showed up to my workshops, slayed, and they brought the best questions. And if we've ever been in a workshop together, you and I are used to one thing, and that's I always put my phone number and my email address at the bottom of every slide, and I say, yo, just text me your questions. And they do, which is really fun because I think a lot of event planners want interaction in their day-to-day conversations and events. And so I actually get a ton of interaction because of that. So fun fact for you. Today's question is actually coming from the founder of a nonprofit, and it's an incredible nonprofit. What they do is they are trying to sell water products to Africa and get donations in order to get more healthy drinking water in Africa. So super admirable cause. I'm really excited to learn about what this company has planned on their strategic side. But I thought it'd be fun just to hop into a webinar today and break down, if I was in that shoes, how would I sell more of these products to or convince a donor to purchase some of these products for this nonprofit. So if you have any questions, obviously put them in the chat. I'll get to them eventually. I've got about 4 of these I get to do today because of a lot of them I've responded to the questions early, but here we go. So I may not be looking directly at the camera. If you can't tell, I'm a little newer to going live, but I will have a script up behind me of what I do want to cover here. But the big picture is selling as a nonprofit should not feel salesy. If it does, then you're doing it wrong. In fact, the best salespeople nowadays, they don't even sound salesy in what it is that they're doing. So we're going to talk about how to reframe sales in a nonprofit as a service. We're going to talk a little bit about what people might say when they need to push back on if there is a better donation that they want to do or any kind of pushback that they might experience. And then I'll walk you through what's called the 6-step impact method. The impact method is just something that I personally created that helps business owners put a little bit of a system and process behind sales. Because if you've ever worked with a salesperson, I love to jokingly pick on my profession. A lot of us are ADHD squirrels. I'm not saying all of us. I'm just saying I've known it again and again and again. And the flaw with hiring salespeople and working with a lot of salespeople is if you don't give them a process, they do what's called winging it. And do we ever want a salesperson to wing it? The answer is no, not unless they've already proven they're a top producer. So nonprofits don't sell. Let's get back to the point of this. How I would help a nonprofit scale. Okay, so nonprofits don't sell. They serve. That's the point of having a 501(c)(3). And many of them, yes, they monetize. They do pretty well. You can reinvest that back into the company. But for the most part, the people who found nonprofits, they come from a deep feeling of service. So what if, and that's where the switch comes in. So what if instead of thinking about it as a sales process, we think of it from a service component? So let me share some of that real world advice for you on how you can scale with impact, attract corporate partners, communicate value, all authentically, so you don't have to worry about feeling like a salesperson. And that's really where it's going to start today. So, okay, we've got all of this done. We've got all of this buckled up. You know what you're going to do. I've got my trusty whiteboard up here. I'm going to do the best I can at it, but it's also just going to be a conversation. So, okay, here's what nonprofits need to know. First and foremost, when somebody is debating whether or not they want to donate to a nonprofit, there's a ton of considerations, in fact, obviously. But where most nonprofits go wrong is they start to think that the option is that the donor can either buy from them or donate their funds to them or donate their funds to someone else. And that's just not the case. There's actually a few considerations that a donor mentally and psychologically will go through in their mind in order to see if it even makes sense to give a nonprofit their donations. And so it's not necessarily you against another competing type of organization. It's that nonprofit. So we'll go water purification products. We will say, that when somebody is debating whether or not they should donate money, there's only really a couple of reasons psychologically why a donor would want to donate money to a water purification project. Number one, they like and trust the leadership team. Number two, they have a personal connection or emotional attachment to the mission behind the organization. Number three, they have personally been affected by water purification in their past or whatever that nonprofit is. And so when we know that it's that combination of three things that could increase the donation levels, well, then it's our job as executives to make sure we are hitting all three of those points in our conversations with donors. This is why a lot of times in a nonprofit, they spend a lot of time at the events talking about the leadership team and what the leadership team believes in. And this is also why donors like to see proof of where their funds are going. One thing that the cystic fibrosis community did very, very well a few years ago, because many of you who are new to the channel, I have cystic fibrosis. So I've had some intimate knowledge with nonprofits. But one of the things that the cystic fibrosis community did that essentially rewrote the book of business on nonprofits was they were very transparent about where their funds were allocated to. And I believe at one time it was like 68 cents out of every dollar went directly back into research. Well, fast forward, the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, I believe, has $1 billion, billion with a B, valuation because their goal was to put all the money back into research and development and then partner with pharmaceutical companies to cure the dang thing. So if you're selling water purification systems or products in another country, what you really need is some kind of, and in sales in general, it's called a hook. All a hook is says enough from a curiosity standpoint that gives trust to the leadership team enough to give them the examples to start talking about the change that they've made. So all the marketing, all the pitching in a nonprofit is essentially the case studies of the good work that's being done and the plans for it being done, while directly sharing how the funds are being directed and dispersed. And so take the page out of the CF Foundation. That's number one. Number two is, let's say you are in a privileged situation where you actually get to talk to a potential donor. Here's the things to keep in mind. Let's just use my impact method. I'll create another webinar in a couple of days about specifically what that is. But let's use the impact method to break this down. And I hope, and if I abandon this, I know what I did wrong. Okay. Not bad, but we could do better. These are my favorite markers, by the way. They come with the little built-in eraser. You can get them on Amazon if you guys are interested. I'll put a link in the bottom. But what I love about them is they don't smear. You have to really it's great. It's great. Not the point. Okay. Let's do it in pink because I can't find the black one. So here we are. Okay. So the impact model. Yeah, we can see this well. Let's make sure you can see. Initiate. Okay. So I don't think that's backwards. If it's backwards, put it in the comments so I know, so I can make it better the next time I do this. So in the initiate section, when you are talking to a donor for a nonprofit, what you want to establish is that you're just there to make sure that the donor feels good about where they allocate their funds. So if you have the ability to pre-book appointments, I would actually recommend that on that pre-booking of that appointment, you have some kind of a form or sheet that says, hey, where all have you donated your money in the past 6 months? Have you donated to churches? Have you donated to healthcare? Have you donated to Pencils for Promise? And that's another nonprofit where they give products to school systems. So asking them where all they've donated. And then there could be a part in the form of, why did you choose that nonprofit to donate? And what's interesting about the pre-qual checklist when you're in the initiation phase, what's interesting about that pre-call checklist is you can take that and then use that as part of your sales conversations later on. So some kind of a form that qualifies, number one, they've donated before, because if they've donated before, that implies they're going to donate again. When we switch into the part of the impact method, step 2, which is make a connection, what we essentially want to do is take the survey response on that form and say, hey, if you're like most donors, you've donated quite a few times and you're trying to analyze where you take your donations from here. My goal in this conversation isn't to necessarily sign a contract with you or get 10% back for some donation you give me. My goal is just to simply point out some of the interesting things about what it is we do. And if you feel so compelled to help us in our mission, I'd be grateful. That's how you kick off that conversation. And you could even add, if they, once they respond to that, you could even add something along the lines of, if you're like most donors, you just simply want to know how your funds are being allocated and get regular updates about the kind of value we've been giving and the work we've been doing and the lives we've been changing. Is that the case for you? Yeah. Sweet. So it's up to you. It's really a column A or B. Would you like to talk more about the financial side of what it is that your donations go to? Or would you just like to hear some of the stories of the impact we've been able to make? They will more than likely say they want to hear the stories. And at that point, that is when you shift into step 3 of the impact model, which is problems and dreams. So you could say, oh, yeah, I'm more than happy to share with you about the stories of the lives we've changed. I'll even put together some videos and I'll email it over, which, by the way, is the good follow up. If you have a great follow up, it doesn't matter if you're selling pet grooming, if you're B2B, if you're B2C, if you're SaaS, none of this matters. Your follow up cannot be, hi, just checking in. Hope you're well. Nobody cares. Your follow up needs to be something directly proportional to the value you started in the conversation with. So if they say, oh, yeah, I'd be really interested in some case studies and to hear stories of the lives you've transformed, cool. Every month, give them a video of something you have done that has helped somebody in your situation as a nonprofit. When you shift into step 3, which is problems and dreams, we'll go with number 2 is make a connection. Step 3 then, like I said, is problems and dreams. You want to ask them and say, hey, before I get into sharing some of these stories, do you mind if I ask you, have you ever donated to a nonprofit, or what were some of the nonprofits you donated to that you liked? What were some of the results of those donations? What do you look for when you evaluate who to send your donations to? Is there something really important to you? Because I, as a salesperson, could talk nonstop about what it is we do and the value we serve. But if I don't know how that's relevant for you, I don't know if I can help a lot. And just having that transparent conversation as you shift into the question and answering phase. And so if I was a nonprofit, I'd probably ask, what have they donated to in the past that they liked? And I'd pull that form up. Hey, everything you've seen here, what did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Why are you even deciding to send some of your donations to brand new nonprofits that maybe you haven't heard of? Do you have a personal tie to Kenya? These are the kinds of questions that I would ask to set myself up for the sales part of this conversation. And then I would ask about the dreams. Do you have a personal life number for people you've impacted? Do you have a personal financial number for how many different charities you've supported? I know one guy, I kid you not, in Louisville, Kentucky, and his goal is to increase the amount he donates to different nonprofits every single year after retirement until he has $0 left when he dies. Beautiful. So when I talk about this, the dream side is, in order for somebody to feel like, yes, I want to give you my money, I need to feel emotionally safe and secure that it's the right investment. So start asking them about their investment goals and their investment dreams. Ask them if they have children and they're trying to pass down these values to their children. And the more you understand about the why behind their decision to donate, because not everybody donates to nonprofits, the more it's going to help. And so after you shift out of the dream phase, you are ready for step 4. As I say 5, it's because I had a pen in my hand. Give me a break. Step 4, which is advice. Hope you guys can see this. Advice. So in the advice phase, this is why nonprofits, oops, as I drop all my paper, it's my tax bill. So this is why nonprofits slay, because the advice isn't about who they should be sending their funds to. The advice is just sharing case studies and videos about what it is you do. And I play up to their egos if they're thinking about donating with you. Like, hey, you've got the choice to send your funds anywhere. Here's a true story of a family, and I'm making this up, obviously. But here's a true story. Watch this video. I'll email it to you. But this is a video of a family. This is a mom, and she's got her 3 kids. And every morning they have to walk X amount of space just to get clean water. In this neighborhood and village, they have a high infant mortality rate, because I'm imagining if you don't have fresh water, then it's hard to live. This is the story of the infant mortality rate. And this mom, what her goal is to get out of this village and to give her kids a better future. Bonus if you've asked the donor if they have kids, because they will have that emotional connection. Remember, people buy on emotion, they justify on logic. And so you're just giving advice about what it is you do and saying, do you have any questions, or how are you feeling about this conversation? Or is this something you want to be part of? Or what other factors come into you as you give your donations out, or what's important to you? And you start asking those questions while you're giving your case study or testimonial. And what you're looking for when you present why you versus anybody else has nothing to do with your charity or nonprofit. Don't get me wrong, and I'm going to say something that could be kind of offensive, but that's also my brand. Don't get me wrong. People, they want to know how their funds are being allocated, but and it is sweet sometimes with executives, because they're like, we're not taking a salary because we believe so much in this mission. But I advise against that statement, and here's why. Because as a donor, if you say, oh, I'm not taking a salary to fund this mission, it's like, okay, well, where are you getting your money from? Like, how are you paying for your own family? Because it's easy to look up somebody's career on LinkedIn and be like, you're the CEO of a company. You don't need a salary. You're taking from your for-profit business and putting it into your nonprofit. Like, I get that it's volunteer driven and mission driven, but you don't need to add that at this point. And you also don't need to talk about why and how long you've been a nonprofit in this niche unless the buyer asks or the donor asks. So make sure when you're working with a nonprofit that if the donor isn't asking, you don't need to tell everything. Just keep sharing the studies of what's possible with their donations and funds. At this point, the prospect will usually bring up what I call step 5, dun dun dun, which is concerns and considerations. Guys, hear the squeaking. Concerns and considerations. Okay, let's talk about this one. With a nonprofit, they are very rarely going to tell you, oh, I'm concerned about giving you my funds. They'll just say, thank you for your information. I'll get back to you next week. But what they might do is, in the back of their mind, they've got only a certain piece of pie that they're willing to donate every year, right? Let's say someone's willing to donate, I don't know, 10 grand to make the math simple. What they could be doing is thinking, okay, I love what this nonprofit is doing, but if I've got 10 grand, maybe I only give them 3 grand, and then I can work with other nonprofits to give them the rest. That's what in the back of their mind is thinking, which is why that intake form is so important in the beginning. Because if you know in the last 6 months they've been giving out 5 grand to different, or maybe a nonprofit other than you, then you would ask, hey, I noticed in the last 6 months you've given donations out to 5 grand. How does that fit into your overall donation strategy for you and your family? And they might say, well, we look for 3 nonprofits a year to support. Wonderful. What's important to you about those 3 years? So the consideration phase, the only reason it's different than selling a product or a service is because what they are considering is what direct proportional amount they would like to give to you. So make sure in the considerations phase, you say something along the lines of, yeah, if you're like most donors, you have a certain amount set aside every single year that you want to give to help other people and give back. Percentage wise, does this sound like something that could even be of interest to you? Do you want me to send you a couple more case studies? Or second, do you just need help in figuring out how to allocate that? And I can definitely point you in the right direction of other nonprofits that are great for that allocation. Selfishly, we would want more of it, but that's the beauty of what it is that I do. However, I'm more than happy just to give you some good recommendations for some other nonprofits, so that way you can adjust your funds accordingly. Works really well. And then you flip into step 6. And step 6 is my personal favorite because so many salespeople are butchering step 6. And if you just get it, your closing percentages go up. They just do. So that's step 6 is called the transition to soft close. Transition to soft close. Now, what does that mean? All that means is you talk about logistics. So if in the event this profit is, or this donation is a good fit for you, do you mind if I just walk you through the line or the storyline of where your dollars go? This amount goes here. This amount goes here. This is what happens next. This is the goal. This is the target. In nonprofits, you have to sell the dream more than anything else. And this is when it becomes cool. You put that framework together, and then you record or you monitor your calls. You do a couple of practices with some of your employees or your staff, and you can find out where on each and every part of that 6-step process you are losing information, and that becomes the piece you tweak. Okay, hope you guys appreciated this. I know it's a little different because I don't always do lives. If you guys have some great live streaming software recommendations, please put them in the chat. I'm looking to turn these into evergreen webinars, as well as be able to go live during the first recording of them. So my heart would be incredibly grateful if you guys know some tech and you want to refer me to places. But outside of that, hope this video helps you. And again, email me your questions. There's a link in the bio for that. And once about a week, I go live and I just share my answers. So, and I wish more sales trainers did this. I don't know why they don't. Not the point. Okay, go crush it.